Compounding and reinvesting are often hailed as the cornerstones of building long-term wealth. They're portrayed as magical forces that turn modest savings into fortunes given enough time. You're told that if you just keep reinvesting your returns and letting the process run, wealth will inevitably follow. And while the math behind compounding is powerful, the reality is much messier. The truth is, compounding and reinvesting don't always work the way they're advertised, and many investors find out the hard way. In Part 1, we explored how compounding is often misunderstood and romanticized. In this follow-up, we dive deeper into the specific reasons why compounding doesn't always deliver its promised results. From emotional missteps to hidden costs and flawed assumptions, this is a reality check that every serious investor needs. 1. The market doesn't always cooperate. The first major flaw in the compounding narrative is the assumption of smooth, predictable growth. In theory, compounding works best in a stable, upward trending environment. But in reality, markets are volatile. Returns fluctuate. Some years you gain, others you lose. The problem is that volatility affects compounding in ways people don't always understand. For example, imagine your portfolio gains 30% one year and loses 30% the next. You might assume you're back where you started, but you're not. A 30% gain on $100 brings you to $130, but a 30% loss on $130 brings you down to $91. That's a net loss of 9%, despite the average return being 0. This is known as volatility drag, and it can severely disrupt compounding over time. Additionally, there's the risk of sequence of returns. If you start withdrawing from your investments during a downturn, it can permanently damage your portfolio's ability to recover and compound in the future. 2. Reinvesting is not always practical, or psychological. Reinvesting your returns is a key part of compounding, but many people struggle to do it consistently. Life gets in the way. Emergencies come up. You may be tempted to use your dividends or interest for short-term needs, or worse, to splurge. Even if you're disciplined, practical obstacles can arise. Taxes, fees, and account limitations might make reinvestment less efficient. In some cases, reinvesting may trigger capital gains taxes, reducing the amount that continues compounding. On top of that, the emotional roller coaster of investing can cause people to break their own plans. When markets drop, fear kicks in. Instead of buying more or staying invested, people often pull out, breaking the compounding process. Consistency is key, but very few investors are immune to emotional decision-making. 3. Timing matters more than you think. Time is often called the secret weapon of compounding, but only if it's used wisely. Starting early helps, but starting too late or interrupting your investment journey can destroy its effects. Let's say you invest $5,000 a year for 10 years starting at age 25 and then stop. Meanwhile, someone else starts investing $5,000 a year at age 35 and does so for 30 years. Despite investing less money, the first person may end up with more wealth at retirement, if the money is left untouched. But if they cash out early or pause contributions, that edge disappears. Similarly, investing during market bubbles or before major downturns can lead to disappointing results even over decades. Compounding relies on time, but the quality and timing of that time matter just as much as the quantity. 4. Inflation silently destroys growth. One of the biggest threats to long-term compounding is inflation. Most people focus on the nominal return on their investments, without accounting for the fact that inflation erodes purchasing power. You might think your investment has doubled over 20 years, but if inflation averaged 3% annually, your real return might be far lower. In high inflation environments, even decent returns can lose value in practical terms. This is especially dangerous for those who keep their money in cash or low-yield investments under the assumption that, at least, it's safe. In reality, safety from market volatility often comes at the cost of compounding potential, especially when inflation is high. 5. Intermittent contributions break the chain. Many investors treat their portfolios like gym memberships, intense at first, then sporadic or forgotten. But compounding only works its magic with consistent contributions. The missed years, skipped deposits, or emotional withdrawals all create gaps that significantly reduce long-term growth. Compounding isn't just about setting it and forgetting it. It's about feeding the machine regularly. If you invest inconsistently, you reduce the snowball effect that turns small amounts into large sums. It's not the amount alone that matters, it's the frequency and discipline. Even small, regular contributions outperform large but inconsistent ones over time. 6. Hidden fees erode returns. Fees are another silent killer of compounding. A 1% annual fee may not sound like much, but over a 30-year period, it can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost returns. Actively managed funds, advisor fees, transaction costs, all of these reduce your effective return. Since compounding works by multiplying gains over time, any reduction in the rate of return has an exponential impact on the final outcome. In other words, fees don't just take a slice from your balance, they steal your future compounding potential. Always be mindful of the cost structure behind your investments. 7. Not all assets are equal. Not every investment compounds effectively. Assets like growth stocks, dividend-paying stocks, and real estate tend to offer better compounding potential because they generate either income or appreciation, or both. On the other hand, speculative assets like cryptocurrencies, collectibles, or meme stocks may rise quickly but don't always sustain long-term growth. Even within traditional markets, some investments are more conducive to reinvestment. If an asset doesn't produce yield or is too volatile, compounding may become inconsistent or unreliable. It's crucial to understand that compounding is not a one-size-fits-all concept. The nature of the asset, its historical performance, and the likelihood of continued growth all influence how effectively it compounds over time. 8. Behavioral mistakes derail compounding. Perhaps the biggest barrier to compounding isn't mathematical, it's behavioral. Investors frequently sabotage their own progress through fear, greed, and impatience. People sell too early when markets dip, trying to cut losses, only to miss the rebound. Others chase hot trends, abandon well-diversified plans, or overtrade. Every one of these actions interrupts the compounding process. The key to success isn't just understanding how compounding works, it's having the discipline to stick with it. Without patience and emotional control, even the best strategy falls apart. What compounding really requires? Compounding and reinvesting can work wonders, but only under the right conditions. The idea of your money working for you sounds great, but it's not automatic. It requires discipline, emotional control, the right assets, and a long-term mindset. You need to protect your capital from volatility, avoid interrupting your contributions, reinvest intelligently, and choose assets that produce real, inflation-beating growth. Most importantly, you need to stick with it, even when it feels uncomfortable. The promise of compounding is real, but only for those who understand its conditions and avoid its traps. Don't just believe in the magic. Learn the rules. Then play the game to win. And that's the truth about compounding and reinvesting, why it doesn't always work like they say it will. If you've been relying on the idea that time alone will grow your wealth, it might be time to rethink your strategy. Let me know in the comments, have you ever experienced any of these pitfalls? What's been your biggest challenge with compounding? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss the next deep dive into wealth, strategy, and financial truth. Thanks for watching, and remember, smart money moves start with clear thinking. See you in the next one.